It was insane. I signed an unbelievable amount of posters and just autographs on all kinds of crazy stuff. Mostly posters, but so very few people had my signature as the truck zombie.
Hello, my friends, and thank you for joining me for Season 2 of Person Behind the Pages. I'm Nicholas W. Fuller, as you know, and that's right, it's October now, and that means a new quarter of the year, so a new season of the show. I've been loving doing these interviews. I'm so glad that you have been watching. I got some great ones in Season 1, and we got some fun stuff lined up in Season 2, so we're just going to keep on rolling. I am going to go ahead and change things up a little bit, a few things. So I want to let you know, starting now, I'm going to put condensed versions of the interviews here on YouTube. I'm going to chop them down into 20 minutes or so, because I think that's just going to go better on YouTube. But if you're liking the full-length video and you want to see the full video, still going to do the full hour interview, and you can check out the full-length video on my Patreon. It's absolutely free to sign up. I'm going to have the link in the description, and the full-length videos are going to be there for you totally for free. If that's the format that you like to watch, then go check it out. Also, I'm working to make audio-only versions and put them out as a podcast. That'll be on all of the podcast platforms. Wherever you listen to your podcast, you'll be able to see Person Behind the Pages, audio-only, podcast format, and it'll be the full hour-long interview right there for you. Super convenient. So that's coming up. And yeah, keep an eye out for that. I've got a very exciting lineup planned for Season 2. I'm pretty stoked about it. Lots of cool authors. Talked to an astrophysicist, and we got into talking about life on other planets and that sort of thing. And I've got a special episode in mind with J.A. Ross and Julian Grajales. Going to be talking to those two together every season. And this season it's going to be something spicy. It's going to be fun. So let's get into it with my first guest of the season, Dyrk Ashton. You're going to love this. Hello, my friends. So my guest today is a man wearing many hats, Mr. Dyrk Ashton. Hi, Dyrk.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Nicholas.
Absolutely. No, it's my pleasure. If Dyrk looks a little familiar, you may have seen him on the big screen. He's got an IMDb page. He's been credited with parts in 11 different movies as an actor, 2 as a producer, 2 in the editorial department. Those 2 you probably wouldn't have seen him, but still. These days, his job is as a university professor of film, teaching at 3 different universities, so you're clearly, just sitting around doing nothing all the time, obviously.
Yeah.
Right. I felt like I got to know Dyrk a little bit just from listening to him every week while he was one of the co-hosts of Wizards, Warriors, and Words, a fantasy writing advice podcast. So that was really fun. And of course, Dyrk is an author in his own right. He's written and self-published the Paternus trilogy. That's Paternus, Rise of Gods. That one won Best Mythology Folklore Book of 2016 by Reality Bites magazine. It also won Best Debut Novel finalist from Reddit Fantasy Best of 2016, and a finalist in 3rd place of Mark Lawrence's self-published fantasy blog off in 2016. So it's kind of a good book. Then Paternus, Wrath of Gods, that was Best Self-Published of 2018 by BookNet Fantasy Awards, and Best Independent Novel of 2018 finalist Reddit Fantasy. Dyrk, you've done like a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah, I've been lucky.
I haven't seen Night of the Living Dead, but I saw clips. I see your zombie walk. It's a pretty good zombie walk. You ever think about cosplaying like at the,
No.
Reprise the role? No?
Not at a book thing, not at Dragon Con. No.
Keep those separate, huh?
Yeah. Well, I did. I went to the first Night of the Living Dead convention that I've ever done just last year.
That's interesting.
Year.
How'd that go?
And it was insane. It was so much fun to see folks I hadn't seen in, I'm not even going to say how long, since the mid-90s. Or no, since the late 80s. Sorry. Some of them, because it came out in 1990, the remake. And but wow. It was great to see Tom Savini and all the effects folks and all the other actors. That was a lot of fun. I had done some things online, but never actually gone to one. So it was insane. I signed an unbelievable amount of posters and just autographs on all kinds of crazy stuff. Mostly posters, but so very few people had my signature as the truck zombie that it was just, it was nonstop for 3 days. But it was fun.
That's
cool. It was a lot of fun.
That sounds,
and I would do it again.
Pretty fun experience. Pretty cool. Nice to like have like that version of fame too, where like people recognize you and they're excited to see you when you're out trying to be kind of recognized, but like in your day to day, like you can go about your life.
Nobody knows. It's funny because nobody recognized me at all from A Night of the Living Dead for a long time, but then it had this huge resurgence. Just not that long, just maybe 5 years ago, and it's become like even bigger than it ever was. And they actually just a few weeks ago, somebody they sent a videographer to come out and interview me.
Oh wow!
For the new 1990 4K release for the extras, so that was fun.
That's sick. That's pretty cool.
It's weird. It's still very strange to me to think that people read my books or watch those films or know me at all.
How about that, right? But Dragon Con I want to get to sometime because that experience seems so different.
It's nuts. It's the most insane con. There are basically two different kinds of cons. One is a pro con, and Confusion is like that. Yes, there are a lot of readers and fans there, but a whole lot of it is focused toward, there are a lot of agents and a lot of authors. Dragon Con has that, but is more of a fan con. So it's got the huge vendors halls, and I call it the Mardi Gras of cons. I've been to Comic-Con, which is the biggest in San Diego.
Yeah.
But it's far more kind of commercial, because it's the publishers and movie studios and TV studios.
It's where Marvel rolls out all their movie stars and gets
a huge presence there.
Yeah.
And they get more attendance, but it feels like Dragon Con is bigger just because it's spread all over the place. Downtown, and it's like people in costumes in the streets, and you don't see that at Comic-Con so much.
What is it, like 5 different hotels that they're at now?
And it takes up all of those hotels, plus the America's Mart, which is where the vendors hall are. And there are 4 floors, each the size of a football field. It's just it's nuts. So much fun.
An interview with the organizer, and he was saying that one thing he tries to make sure of is that the hotels have like drink stations, bars set up all over the place as well.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Mardi Gras of cons. That seems really on point, right?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And there's a parade.
Right.
Yeah.
Man,
it's fun. Really.
Yeah,
fun.
That sounds super fun. When you go to these things, do people ever recognize you, either Dyrk from the podcast, Dyrk the author, or
actually,
even from movies?
It's funny. We like to make fun of Davis Ashura because people go, "Are you Davis Ashura? Did you write this book?" And they're always getting his autograph and stuff. And fans don't actually come up to me much, very very little. But I know a lot of authors.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So they're like,
so we'll be we'll just be walking around and somebody will just say, "Hi, Dyrk," and they're like, "You know that person?" And it's really that's a lot of fun.
So I've read, and you said that you've kind of always been interested in writing. You've always done writing. I guess you've written some screenplays. But what was was there a big turning point where you're like, you know what, novels is what I'm going to do? Or
I had always wanted to. I was a huge reader as a kid. Just read and all the way up through college, and then some afterwards. But then getting into the film stuff and moving to L.A., I just didn't have that much time to read anymore.
Sure.
And then I would be able to pick up a book every once in a while. Once I came back and started my PhD, there were a few things that I read. But then once I started getting into the dissertation and then teaching, a decade or more passed when I just wasn't able to read anything other than school stuff and research stuff. And once I left that position and got into the teaching all online, I had time to read again. So I was just devouring all these things that I had not read, like Harry Potter. I still hadn't read Harry Potter.
Sure.
You know, just everything that I wanted to catch, that I had, wanted to catch. And at that time, I didn't know anybody else, so I was just who was reading that kind of stuff, really. So I was like looking online, what should I be reading? And that's where I picked up like Joe Abercrombie stuff and Anthony Ryan and just started reading all kinds of stuff. And I was reading and Game of Thrones. I started reading Game of Thrones at that time. And it was actually while I was writing Game of Thrones, I was like, I have time to read. I actually might be able to have time to write. So I had all these crazy ideas that I had written down for movies and books and stories, and I just kind of put a whole bunch of them together and it took me, 3.5, almost 4 years to write the first book, just to pull everything together. Luckily, I like to research. Unfortunately, that also means I over-research, and I take hundreds of pages of notes when I really don't need to. Sure. Tables and charts and just all kinds of goofy shit. And and over that time, I put together Paternus, and originally it was 2 books, and then I had some people reading it and cut it down to 1 book, and then revised it again, and then revised it again, and finally put it out there. And I had decided that I did not want to try to query after talking to some friends who have agents, and they're like, they're going to want you to change it. They're going to want you to do this. And self-pub at that time was big in 2015, 2016. But you still had that stigma, right? That if you self-publish, you will never trad publish. And nobody just wanted nothing to do with it. Now, things have changed very quickly over the years since then.
Yeah, money talks, right? Yeah, you self-publish and you sell enough, and they're like...
Yeah, it wasn't much later that publishers, agents began actually contacting self-pub authors.
Yeah.
And now that's commonplace.
Right.
But then it was like, what?
Yeah. That's cool. So, obviously, Paternus is a trilogy now. Did you originally conceive it as a trilogy, or were you only...
Yeah, I always wanted it to be a trilogy. I always knew it would take at least 3 books. But I didn't want to write anything longer than that. Personally, I have a hard time reading series that are longer than that. I think Game of Thrones is the only one in a long time. Well, and Harry Potter. There are a few that I've read all of the books. I actually just recently finished reading all of John Bierce's Mage Errant series. And I really enjoyed that. But that's like the first series of that length that I've read in a long time. So
yeah. It's an investment, right? Like, it takes time.
Right. And I'm just like, I don't think I have enough ideas to write a 5, 7, 9, 12 book series.
Right. I definitely wouldn't know right now, as I sit here today, how to plot a 12-book series, Yeah,
my brain can barely hold on to 1 book at a time.
Have you received any fan art from Paternus fans?
Yeah,
or have you...
yeah. It's really cool.
Right.
It's those, yes, I've made it moments.
Yeah.
When you get some fan art. Stas Borodin and Felix Ortiz, who Felix is. Stas just did Anna Smith Sparks' newest cover. And Felix is doing covers all over the place.
Wow.
So that was really cool. I've had people have tattoos
of
things.
So cool. Yeah.
And then the ultimate, I had one fan name her one of her little boy, her new baby Zeke.
Wow.
So, yeah, she's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how cool. I mean, again, to have a how baby crazy it is.
Babe. I mean, and people have named some cats and dogs after characters.
Which is cool, but that's not baby level,
No, no. Yeah. That one's the ultimate. Tattoo's big, right?
Yeah. That's on your body.
It's like fan art. Yeah, tattoos. Whoa. And then named a baby? Huh? Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's whoa. Huh? Yes, that's
Yep.
That's pretty good. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is fun.
So I became aware of you as you were co-hosting Wizards, Warriors, and Words. Mm-hmm. And obviously that podcast has sadly ended, but all the episodes are available on YouTube on Jed Hurd's channel. So
and there's still a lot of people looking at them, I guess.
Right? Yeah. Awesome. How did that podcast get started?
I mean, I had known Mike Fletcher and Rob for years. Rob and I from SPFBO stuff, and Mike just from originally getting to know each other in groups on Facebook. And then we would talk more, and then I went and met him when he was in Indianapolis, came down from the great white north of Canada for a while.
Right.
And hung out with him and for a bit. And then so the young guy, Jed Hearn, was new, and he decided he wanted to do a podcast, and he actually contacted us and said, hey, you guys be interested in this? And we're like, yeah, what the hell, let's give it a shot. Next thing we know, 3 years later, was it, we were still doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just it's all Jed.
Well, what are you working on now?
I am working on a new trilogy in a completely different world from Paternus. And I'm working on it with David Estes, who wrote the Fate Marked and Kingfall series, and has sold like 100 times more books than I have. Super
good partner.
Super successful, and a really, really good guy.
Nice.
So we're kind of co-writing that. And he fully says he acts very much like a senior editor would. We are doing it with a small press called Wraithmarked, which is Bryce O'Connor's company.
Right.
And it all started as kind of a joke. We were in that writers group I was talking about, and talking about everything that is like really popular today and things that just remain popular forever. Magic schools, right? Military magic training academies, dragon riders, right? That stuff's just huge all the time. And yet still the old farm boy, goes on an adventure, becomes stronger, becomes king, progression fantasy, general epic fantasy, if done well, still does really, really well in the independent marketplace. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to write, and I put all those things together. A farm boy outcast makes good, dragon rider, military magic academy, epic progression fantasy, and there were a few more things. Only I'm going to have my main character ride a Kraken, and I'm going to call it Kraken Rider Z. And I just made that shit up. I was just in the Slack group. And a couple days later, I get a call, or I get a message from Wraithmark. Dyrk, we know you're not interested. You got your own things going. You want to write some books, some prequels, and then some more Paternus books. But we'd really like you to do that book. And I'm like, we can talk about it. And then I found out David Estes was like, yes, let's do that. And I love David too. And so we had a Zoom call, and it was a great offer. And it just
did they give you an advance?
Fun. Yeah.
Wow. I'm
only surprised how much it was, but it was great, and a really good back end. It was a better deal than I ever would have gotten from a trad.
Yeah.
And it's just been an absolute blast, and they're wonderful people to work with. So, and it's almost done.
Really? Ooh.
Yeah.
So my one specific question, I love the idea of a Kraken rider.
It's insane.
I want to know where they ride on it, but I guess I'll figure that. But like, is the rider able to use some magic to breathe underwater?
This Kraken has a shell.
Okay.
Yeah, he has it's like, imagine an enormous freaking octopus with 10 arms, but with also a shell,
Neat. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
And he can shoot spikes out of his shell when he wants.
Whoa.
So now, of course, eventually, instead of just hanging on to the spikes, the rider can get, a saddle set up.
There you go. Sure.
With the Academy Tackmaster helps put all that together.
Beautiful. Well, Dyrk, this has been super fun. I really appreciate you coming on my little show and chatting with me.
It's been awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Where can people find you online?
I'm on Twitter at Undyrk, UNDYRK. I'm on Instagram, same thing, Undyrk. I have a personal, which I use all the time just as much, on just Dyrk Ashton. You can find me on Facebook. And I also have a Paternus Books Media page on Facebook. And the website is paternusbooks, all one word, .com.
Nice. Is paternusbooks.com, is that going to be a good place to find out new information about Kraken Rider Z also?
I will have some stuff up on there too. I think maybe I have one little post. I don't pay as much attention to my website as I should, but with everything else going on, it's tough.
As someone whose day job is making websites, others never pay attention to their website. Thanks again for being here, and thank you for watching.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this interview, go and check it out on Patreon. The full hour-long interview is available as video for free on Patreon. You just sign up and you're going to get access. Talked so much more to Dyrk. Got to hear so much more fun stories about going to cons, about meeting Billy Campbell in Sri Lanka while they were filming a movie together and getting to know him. Times he lived in Costa Rica, his writing, a little bit about his work as a professor. It was just a lengthy and very interesting conversation. If you liked everything here so far, go check that out for sure on my Patreon, link below. And more importantly, if no one's told you today, you're an absolute legend.